What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tony Reads. In today's video, I'm going to do my true March 2024 reading wrap up. Towards the end of March, I really went outside of my comfort zone and outside of the box. But I'm actually pretty happy with the books that I ended up reading. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book that I read was actually it's the first time I read a book on my Kindle. So I was just really excited about this one, and it's a book I've been wanting to read for a while by my favorite author, as most of you guys already know, Freida McFadden, and the book is Ward D. Um, this one, so this book takes place in a psychiatric hospital, and Ward D is like where the real people it's like where the maximum security part is or whatever. And so the main character, her name is Amy. I believe her name is Amy. I might get some of the people mixed up and I might have to look at my notes, but I'm gonna try not to. She has an ex-boyfriend, Cameron. Then she has a friend who's not really in the story. She talks to her and texts her and everything, but she's not really part of the story in Ward D. She also has, in the story, it kind of flashes back to like 8 or 9 years ago or something. And she's in, just to let you know, she's in her early 20s. She's in medical school. And this is like part of, I don't know, I've never been to medical school, whatever, when you kind of have to go work on site somewhere or whatever. And this was just like part of the course or whatever. And so it just so happened, she had to work on Ward D. She had to do an overnight shift. Her ex-boyfriend also was doing that same overnight shift. There's a doctor named Dr. Beck, and there's a nurse or a reception lady. I honestly can't remember which one she is, and I can't remember her name. Sorry, guys. You guys don't need to know names. You just want to know the story and what I think about it and what my review is. So anyway, so she went to work there that night, and she has to stay overnight and everything. And so they're giving her, little brief history on some of the patients there. And there's one patient that's like supposed to be like really off the rocker, and his name is Sawyer or something like that. I think that's his last name. And he stays in like this separate room that has like a lock on it, and it has like a code and everything. And in Ward D, there's a code that you have to have in order to get out in the first place. Basically, they don't want anybody to leave, especially not through the night. There's also no phone reception, of course, which is a common theme in a lot of thrillers, which is fine. That makes it more interesting when they can't just dial 911. So she's there that night and everything, and she's already kind of freaked out about it. She doesn't really want to do this or whatever. The people there are weird to her. There's another guy that's in the hospital. His name is, they call him Spider Dan or something like that. And he actually thinks he's Spider-Man, and he's going around like pushing his wrist, thinking a web is going to come out and just all this kind of stuff. There's a little older lady that's like in her 80s or something named Mary. There's also another patient named Will who just got there because he was hearing voices or something. So he went to the emergency room himself, and of course they locked him up in a psychiatric hospital or whatever. So there's all kind of patients there and everything. As I was editing this video, I realized I forgot to mention a very key person in this story whose name is Jade, and she's Amy's friend from childhood, from like high school, and she's actually a patient in Ward D. The patients can come out freely and roam the halls and interact with Amy, and the staff and everything, except for the people that are in those secured lock rooms. And Sawyer's in one that's locked, and there's one that's not occupied yet at the beginning of the story. So, just all kinds of things are happening. The doctor there that's kind of running the show, he encourages them to read the charts of the patients, just because they're like taking notes. It's like for a class. They want to get to know them and all that kind of stuff, see why they're in there, all that kind of stuff, just get familiar with them. And so Cameron and Amy are going around, they're meeting them and all that kind of stuff or whatever. And just like strange, of course, this is a thriller, so strange things keep happening. Like for one, Will, he likes to read, he loves to read books, and he has all kind of books. And one time when he wasn't in his room, Amy had went in there to like look, check out one of his books or whatever. And she opened it up, and it was hollowed out, and it had his pills in there. So he wasn't even taking his medicine that he was supposed to be taking. He was just like shoving it in a book. Almost all the patients were telling Amy that Sawyer, the one that's in the maximum locked up room, had a plan to kill everybody that night, and just all this kind of stuff is going on. And so, you know, of course, there's going to be a twist at the end, which I'm not going to give away. I do encourage you to read this book. It's very different than other Freida McFadden books that I've read, I will say. If you don't like a book where the setting is literally in the same place the whole time, this is probably not the book for you, because the whole story, they're in Ward D. That's what it's all about. But I personally didn't mind that. If you don't like sometimes it gets kind of old, because a lot of thrillers I read, somebody's like in a psychiatric hospital or something. If that's kind of old to you, that theme, I don't recommend this book either. But I thought this book was like really entertaining. There are parts of it that, and probably thriller readers won't like this, but there's things that I like to laugh, and there's things that made me laugh that are not funny to other people. And I feel that Freida McFadden tries to make things kind of quirky sometimes. And there's parts of this book that I actually laugh, like that Spider Dan guy who thought he was Spider-Man. He was hilarious to me. There was another guy named Miguel who thought God was his actual dad, not just like God the Father, but he thought that God was really his dad, and God was telling him all this stuff that he needs to get out of there and all this kind of crazy stuff. And I just felt that it was just like really entertaining. So of course there is a twist at the end. I will say probably you may be able to predict what's going to happen on this one. There's kind of like maybe a 50-50 chance that you would be right. So, you know, it just depends on what you kind of think. I actually didn't have it right, but I knew what I was thinking probably wasn't right, because it was kind of like the easy way out. If you guys read Freida McFadden books and I'm kind of like mumbling over my words, you get what I'm talking about. And so, but anyway, that was Ward D, and I don't regret reading it all. It wasn't my favorite Freida McFadden book. It wasn't my favorite book at all, but it was good enough where I do recommend that you read it, especially if you kind of want to be entertained by a thriller. Okay, so then that was my Kindle read, and then that was my first Kindle read. The next book, I kind of went way different than what I normally read, and I went by one of my sister's recommendations, and I believe some subscribers also recommended this book to me as well. There is a video that I did where my sister actually recommended several books, and I encourage you to check that video out. But this book is called The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, and probably most of you, if you read or whatever, you've probably heard of Tiffany D. Jackson, and you've probably actually heard of this book. I wouldn't say this book is a thriller. To me, it's more horror. If anything, it's not, yeah, it's just straight up horror to me. For those of you who don't know, this book is like it's not a remake, but it's her version of kind of like Carrie. Tiffany D. Jackson loves Stephen King, and in particular, she loved the movie Carrie. And that's actually what got me to read this book. I actually love the movie Carrie. I've seen it, I mean, I can't even count how many times. If I said I saw it maybe 100 times, that probably wouldn't be an exaggeration. I love that movie since I was a little kid. Watched it, I mean, just so many times. And there's like, sometimes when I watch it, sometimes I actually see something new that I didn't notice before. So I watched all the remakes, you know, Carrie, the Rage, all that. But anyway, that's getting more into all the horror stuff or whatever. And I do love, for those of you who don't know, I do love Stephen King. I just choose not to read his books because they're just long. That's really the only reason. But anyway, back to the review. So The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. So this book is nothing that I expected. What I thought it was going to be is a black version of Carrie. And it is kind of a little slightly black version of Carrie, but that's not what the gist of the book is actually about. So she kind of spins on everything. Yes, the girl, number one, her name wasn't Carrie. Her name was Maddie. And yes, she did have like the powers to move things and all that kind of stuff. But everything else about this, I won't say everything, a lot of other things about the story were different. Yes, it was set at a high school. Yes, it was set around prom time. Yes, she was an outcast. She had a crazy parent and all that kind of stuff. But there's just like a deeper meaning in it. There's racism in the story and everything. So it's just like, it's totally different. I think if you read Carrie, it's not like you shouldn't read this because like, oh, it's going to be the same old thing. It's very different, and I really actually highly recommend this book. I thought it was very entertaining. It had, like I said, nobody else probably does this, but I'm the type that likes to laugh. There were parts in it that I found like hilarious. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny or not, but it was very entertaining to me. The story, I won't say that, oh my gosh, you're like going to be on the edge of your seat and there's just, you know, every chapter somebody's dying or anything. It's nothing like that. It's just a story, but it's a very good story. Just kind of like if you watch Carrie the movie, you know, in Carrie the movie, she didn't. I mean, nobody died until prom night, like towards the end of the movie, if I'm remembering correctly. So, and this is kind of like the same thing. It's really, it goes along the lines of story, but it's different. It has these different twists to it. I do highly recommend this book. I think Tiffany Jackson, I could be wrong, I'm not that familiar with authors and everything. I think she's more of a young adult author, and this is, since this is based in high school or whatever, I guess it is considered a young adult book or whatever, but I did actually read it. I'm not interested in young adult outside of like this kind of stuff, but this book, it was just very good. I highly recommend this one. I'm trying to do like the 5-star, 4-star ratings or whatever. This would be probably like a high 4. It was very, very good. It wasn't that long. It was like 300 and some pages, which is in line with what I normally read. And it was just like, there was even a twist at the ending. And also, it's not just boring like a story. They kind of go, not back and forth to like a long time ago, but it's actually like years later after the whole situation with Maddie, not Carrie, Maddie happened. It's like they're doing podcasts and stuff on it, talking about it, and then it kind of flashes back to the story of what happened and everything. So it's not like it's just a boring, drawn out story. It's actually really, really good. So anyway, if you haven't read that, probably most people have already read it or at least heard of it anyway, but I'm new to reading and everything, but I highly recommend The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. Okay, last but not least is a book where I really went outside of what I normally would read. Honestly, if I saw this book and read what it was about, I probably wouldn't have read it just based off of that. But the key to it is that my favorite author, Frida McFadden, recommended this book, and she said it was one of the best books she's read. She said this year, I don't know if the comment I read was old, and she's about 2023 or either 2024, but anyway, she gave it very high praise. And so I decided to check it out. Of course, it's a thriller. It's by an author named Noelle Inley or something. I always mess up her name. Noelle, I think I'm saying it right. You guys probably, I don't have it right in front of me, but you guys probably know who I'm talking about. She has like a lot of books. She's a well-known author. And so the book is called Ask Andrea. And the book is very different. I'm not gonna, again, I try not to do spoilers anyway. I'm not going to tell you any more about the twist of the book than what is actually you could just read on the cover or whatever or on Amazon. And so basically there's a guy who's like a serial killer. He kills like women. And he's killed, in the story, he's killed these 3 women, Brescia, Sky, and Megan. And it's all at different times. Like he does this over the course of maybe like 2 or 3 years or something. And so the whole concept of the story is these 3 women are dead, but they're not, I don't even know if they're considered ghosts or whatever. They haven't like went to heaven or hell or anything. They're just kind of like lurking around the earth still, and they're going back and looking at things that's going to happen. Maybe like the first one who got murdered is looking at things that might happen with one of the other ones is going to get murdered later. They're watching him, trying to stop him from killing other people and all that kind of stuff. I won't really say all what they can do or what they can't do, but that's kind of like what the story is centered around. And the way I'm saying it, even to me, the summary of the story that you can find in the cover of the book or whatever, it doesn't really sound like that good of a story, but it was actually good. It was like, if you're into murders being in a story, you'll love this. If you're into serial killers, you'll love this. If you're into somebody who has like, that's a killer that has like a secret identity or whatever, you'll love this book. For some people who are kind of like, kind of soft-hearted or whatever, you might get a little teary-eyed if you read this. I'm not that type that would cry over a book or anything. There's some parts that would probably really tug at your heartstring or whatever. So it's just like, I've never read anything like this. I've never even seen a movie like this. It's like literally the 3 women are kind of telling the story through the eyes of a spirit or something like that. It's just really, the concept is just really weird. It's very different. Nothing that I ever read. I've never heard of a book like this or anything. So I do encourage you to check this out. I won't say it's like my favorite book, and just because Frida McFadden gave it all this high praise and stuff, I won't say I'm giving it 5 stars or anything like that. But it was very, the best word I can use is just like interesting, because it's just so different. It's like the most different thriller that I ever read. And so it's very unique. There are some parts, I will say, and what was the most entertaining to me, there are parts where you're literally sitting there, like yelling at the book, talking about, go, 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 hide, do this and all that kind of stuff. And That I really like that in a book. I like when I'm kind of on the edge of my seat and wanting and rooting for somebody, or wanting, go hide and go do this or something like that. And so I did like that. There were parts that were actually very exciting and kind of make your heart race and everything. So if you like that, I would say this is in that book. But it's the whole concept, like through the eyes of a spirit or whatever, it's just very, very different. But I do, it's not that, it was like 300 and something pages or whatever. It's not that long. I would encourage you to actually check it out if you're looking for something that's different than other thrillers. It's nothing like, I love Freida McFadden. It is nothing like her own books, I will tell you that. But it was a pretty good read, and I don't regret it. At not any point did I want to DNF it or anything like that. So yeah, that's my March reading wrap up. I'm looking forward. I have a lot of good books that I plan to read in April. One of them that I'm actually starting already is called The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I talked about that in my other video, saying that I wanted to read it, and I did. I held to my own word, and I am starting that book, and I love it already. So I'll let you guys know what I think about that one after I finish it. But anyway, if you like this video, thumbs up. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, comment and let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to discuss. Again, if you have any other recommendations for thrillers or thriller authors, let me know what those are in the comments as well. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit subscribe and notifications so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. And I will see you in the next one.